Welcome to this tutorial in Microsoft Excel. In this study, we're going to look a little bit at the issue of text in cells where the text should match, but it doesn't because of unseen extra spaces. For example, if you look at the three shaded columns on the screen, we have different fruits, and they're all spelled the same, so we would expect the question, do lists 1 and 2 match, to all be true. But if I look in column F, I find that the apples match, the oranges don't, the bananas don't, and the red grapes do not. Why? Well, because I have an extra space after orange here in list 2. It's very hard to detect. The same thing in banana. And then I have an extra space between the word red and the word grapes in the last item in the column. So it is a mismatch. When I ask the question, you look at the formula. In the formula bar, is B3 equal to D3? In these three cases, the answer is no. It's not equal. So what can you do in that situation? Well, there are a couple of options you have. There's a very useful function called trim. Trim removes any leading spaces, any trailing spaces, and any multiple spaces within a text string. If you have a sentence and you have two spaces between two words or four, it will reduce them all to one. So list 3 has trimmed my items in list 2. If I look over here at list 3, it's equal to the trim of D3. So I have trimmed all of these items simply by using trim and then parenthesis and then a reference to the cell. So that has taken out any leading spaces, any trailing spaces, and any multiple spaces within a text string. And so now I ask in this column J, does list 3 match list 1? And the answer in this case is all true. So if you want to strip out those extra spaces, you can create another list called trim and replace the first items with it if you want to. But let me show you something else you can do without creating a list. You can also, let's take our row number 4 with oranges. Let's compare oranges without creating a new column. The way I can do that is I'll click over here and I'll put the formula you see in cell F11. I'll put equal to is orange equal to the trim of the other orange. Whoop. And then enter. It doesn't matter which item I have left, right, or left, and that gives me true. So that tells me that cell B4 is equal to the trim value, the stripped value of cell D4. And it says that's true. And that seems to work. And here I have two sentences where I try that formula. In cell F13, I ask, is the trim of B13, this short sentence here, equal to the trim of B12? But I get a false. Now, why do I get a false? That happens because in this case, I have different spaces between, before, or after each text string in cell B12 and cell C13. So both of them have extra spaces I don't want. The answer for that, if you're comparing text strings, is you use trim on both sides of the equation. For example, in cell H13, I ask the question, is the trim of cell B12, this string, equal to the trim of cell B13, this string? And the answer there is true. Now, none of these formulas give you accurate comparisons of the corrected version, if you will, of both text strings, but it doesn't change them. To change them, you have to use the trim function, either copy and replace them or do something on that order. But if you want to see basically are all the words the same, with or without the spaces. The answer here gives you a true because they're spelled correctly. Now, if I had an actual misspelling here, I'm going to change this one and put an extra S in. Then obviously I get a false. But if the item is spelled correctly, I'll just simply undo that. I do get a true. So trim is a great function if you want to compare items, make sure that they're exact. This would be if you're using, say, a text string that winds up in a document and a sentence pulled in some other kind of way. Trim is a really nice function. It strips leading spaces, trailing spaces, and multiple spaces between characters.